We're back in from the break on a Friday, still pimp walking down the street on the hottest show, in my own words, the podcast. Yours truly, Stephen Smith of Touchdown Alabama Magazine. And as I'm looking at the maestro, JP, we have gotten down to everybody's favorite subject. Everybody's favorite coach on Alabama's roster. No, I'm not talking Nick Saban, I'm talking Pete Golding. Pete Golding, Alabama's favorite coach. What will Alabama decide to do with one Pete Golding? And I've mentioned this before. If you take a poll of the Alabama fan base, I mean, it's right down the middle. Half the folks saying, no, we don't want him. Half the folks saying, give him another shot. He had 1 year where a bunch of folks weren't healthy, and a bunch of folks that were not prepared to play. You had to play a bunch of freshmen before time. And it's a difficult situation for anybody to handle. Pete Golding had to handle that. But the more I talk to Alabama fans, this is what I'm starting to kind of get a gist of. It's whether Pete Golding is at Alabama or whether he's not at Alabama. The idea for Tide fans is, as long as he is not calling the plays defensively, I'm good. Whether he is here and just at a different positional group, not calling a defense, or even if he's not at Alabama, just get the defensive coordinator playbook away from him, and I will stomach that. So that's the whole gist there of Alabama fans when you talk one Pete Golding. Now, something that I have heard in the rumor mill, of course, I was awakened of my sleep in the morning of about 8 a.m. and had to wipe the eye crispies out of my eyes and get a pen and paper to take down the information that people that I trust and are very much so well connected and well respected within the program have told me is, when you look at Pete Golding, he could potentially be one of 2 to 3 coaches that could be shuffled around on the staff or headed out in terms of the staff. We'll see what happens, but that's, of course, some of the things that I have been told. Among the names that could be on the rise in terms of defensive coordinators would be one, and he was here recently, Derek Ansley. There we go. Derek Ansley, who's right now at Tennessee with Jeremy Pruitt. He was at Alabama once before, and from 2016 to 2017 as a defensive backs coach. Did a tremendous job in getting the secondary to play like the no-fly zone we saw it become that season. So the likes of Derek Ansley could be potentially at Alabama a defensive coordinator. Should the Crimson Tide make that move, it would be transitioning Pete Golding out if Alabama does not land. Him at that spot, you would look at the potential of having Golding go to defensive backs coach and a co-DC thing being worked out between either Freddie Roach or Sal Sunseri, or even Sal Sunseri and Carl Scott. So that's what I've been mentioned to, or that's what I have been told by trusted, credible people within the program. But just getting back to Pete Golding, I'm for one that I believe he has value. Everybody in life has value. Now, is his value as his value at defensive coordinator? That is still up for debate. To me, there are people in life that were meant to be head coaches. They come out of the womb meant to be head coaches. They know how to micromanage. They know how to put things together. They know how to oversee everything. They know how to kind of be the CEO of the whole ordeal. So some people come out of the womb just born to be head coaches. You have some people that come out of the womb just born to be coordinators. They don't know how to micromanage. They can't oversee everything, but they know how to plan. They know how to scheme. They know how to strategize at their respective positions, whether offense or defense. So you have some folks that were meant to be coordinators. And then there were people that were just meant to be position coaches. They may not be the best of schemers. They may not be able to micromanage, but they have those one-to-one interpersonal communications with their respective position group, and they know how to get the maximum effort from their respective position group. So I could see Pete Golding in that third tier, in that third line of work, being a position coach. He does have experience in working with defensive backs. He did it at Southern Miss. He did it at University of Texas, San Antonio. He did it at Southeastern Louisiana. He did it at Delta State. So he's got experience working with strictly defensive backs. So I feel like if Alabama was to go the route of keeping Pete Golding and kind of shifting him to be the defensive backs coach, I could see that working. I can see that panning out pretty well just due to the patience that he has with young players. We saw a season ago that even though it was rough at times, him working with Christian Harris and Shane Lee, we saw the growth of Christian Harris. I mean, week by week, he did not let the same thing trip him up. Each week, Christian Harris got better, whether it was blowing up a play in the backfield or whether it was forcing a fumble or reading his keys or shooting the gap. Each week you saw something different from Christian Harris that made you go, okay. If he can continue to improve, once he latches on to this entire system, that young man is going to be the real deal. And even when you look at Shane Lee, though there are times when I feel like he overthinks things, he oversteps things, he kind of psychs himself out. Even at times with Shane Lee, you saw in certain spats that he can be successful, he can be pretty good. And Nick Saban mentioned throughout the 2019 season about how at times when he did not have the patience to work with a lot of these young guys, Pete Golding had the patience. So if there was a situation where you could get somebody different to come in here, like a Derek Ansley, to run the defense, you could shift Pete Golding to defensive back, you could shift Pete Golding out of the program. If you could not get Derek Ansley, then you could shift Pete Golding to the safeties coach position with the defensive backs, and it could go there from that aspect. So I feel like Pete Golding has value, but in the next couple of days, as we start to see some shifting here with the coaching staff, we'll be able to check out for ourselves how this thing will unfold and lock in together. But for me, I feel like Pete has value, and I would like to see Alabama give him a second shot at being the defensive coordinator due to everybody deserves that 1 year to experiment, to find out what they actually have, to mess some things up just to see what can you improve upon in the next year. And with him coming into a situation where you didn't have Dylan Moses. If Alabama would have had Dylan Moses in 2019, that would have made a huge difference. It didn't have Joshua McMillan. If Alabama would have had Joshua McMillan, it would have made a huge difference. It didn't have LeBron Ray 3 games into the season. If it would have had LeBron Ray, it could have made a bit difference. And then as the season went on, you did not have DJ Dale also because he gets hurt as well. So that's 4 main guys. And it doesn't matter if you have the best defensive coordinator in college football. When you have injuries like that and you are forced to play young players, you are forced to play freshmen, you are forced to play babies out of necessity, the last time they've seen big-time football is in the high school ranks, and then boom, you throw them out there in major Division I college football, SEC, mano-a-mano, big-time football, dog-eat-dog town where everything goes down, and you're putting them out there before it's their time to actually play and develop. You're going to have some problems. And Pete Golding, have to deal with that. But for the most part, you still come out of that whole scenario, that whole deal, being in the top 20 in total defense at number 20, being in the top 15 in scoring defense at number 13, just outside the top 10. So for what it's worth, it was not as terrible, it was not as bad as what a lot of people make it out to be. But once again, my enjoyment for Alabama football started in the 1990s, myself coming up in this thing. And I understand that Alabama fans crave perfection. When you grew up with Wallace Wade having a strong defense and Frank Thomas having a strong defense and Paul Bear Bryant, the legend himself, went through the 60s and the 70s with having the Junction Boys and just defenses that made you want to cry and, not want to play Alabama. And then you have Gene Stallings that had the defense in 92. When you look at Copeland and Curry and Antonio Langham and George Teague, and guys that believed in getting after the quarterback, guys that believed in creating turnovers, guys that believed in if our offense just puts 3 to 10 points on the board, we the defense, we take care of the rest. And then in the earlier parts of Nick Saban, in 2009, 11, 12, 15, and 17, when you had the giant wall of you know what I mean, with guys like Ashawn Robinson, Jaron Reed teeing off, and Terrence Cody teeing off, and Courtney Upshaw, Donta Hightower, Tim Williams, Ryan Anderson, Deron Payne, Quentin Williams, the list goes on. I can go on forever. When you become so used to hanging your hat on the defensive side of the football and knowing beyond a shot of a doubt, I got defense. There are days my offense could go to crap. There are days the special teams could go to crap, but I know I got defense. And as long as I got defense, I'm going to be all right. And Alabama fans, you guys have felt like that for the longest of time, with the exception of the last 2 years. So even though with Pete Golding and all the chaos that happened, it wasn't as bad as what people make it out to be. But when it's not at the Alabama standard, whether it's the coaching staff standard, the player standard, and to you, the Alabama Crimson Tide standard, when it doesn't meet that standard of you being a Tide fan, then, of course, something has to be done. The blame is pointed somewhere, and the blame for the last 2 years, and especially this past season, was directed toward Pete Golding. So we'll see what happens. Does Alabama keep him? Does Alabama go in a different direction? Does it pull a Derek Ansley? Does it not pull a Derek Ansley? Does it go in sliding Pete Golding, the defensive back? In the coming days, we shall see what happens. But we'll take another break here on the show. When we get back, we go to more of your phone calls after this.
Touchdown Alabama Magazine is Alabama football's premier publication. A subscription to Touchdown Alabama Magazine is the perfect gift for any Alabama fan. For exclusive news and information, recruiting updates, a free annual print magazine, and more, go to touchdownalabama.com and click join. Only $5.95 per month, or pay $49.95 for a full year subscription. That's a saving of almost $22. Make sure to subscribe before it's too late and get our new freshly printed end of the year magazine issue. Go to touchdownalabama.com today and roll Tide.
Subscribe right now for the best in Alabama football content. You can also download the Touchdown Alabama Magazine app for your iPhone or Android. Also, if you're looking for the best in Crimson Tide news, notes, and information, subscribe to touchdownalabama.com.